If one pronounces if one pronounces a vow on his wife that she should not go to a house of mourning or to a house of feasting, he fasting, or feasting, he must divorce her and give her the ketubah because he locks the door before her. But if he claims that it was due to some other cause, he may. If he said to her, on the condition that you tell so and so what you said to me or what I said to you, or that you fill up and pour out unto the garbage, he must divorce her and give her the ketubah. And these were divorced without a ketubah, one who transgresses the law of Moshe on Jewish practice. Well, now, what is the law of Moshe? If she feeds him food that is not tied, his relations with him when she is a menstruant, and does not separate kala or vows and does not keep her vows. What is Jewish practice? If she goes outside with her hair uncovered, or she spins in the street, or she talks with every man. Abishil says also if she curses his parents in his presence. If Tarfon says also if she has a loudmouth woman. Now that what is a loudmouth woman? One who speaks in her house and has neighbor and her neighbors hear her voice. If one betroths a woman on the condition that she is not under any vows, and it is found that she is under vows, she is not betrothed. If he married her without making any stipulations, it is found that she is under vows, and she may be divorced without a ketubah. If he betrothed her on the condition that she has no bodily defects, and such defects were found upon her, she is not betrothed. If he married her without making any stipulations, and bodily defects were found upon her, she may be divorced without a ketubah, and all bodily defects that disqualify Khanim also disqualify women. Hey.
Okay. Hayu ba mumin be'oda bebeis aviha. So let's say she has some physical defects while she's still in her father's house. And this now comes to light, and the husband wants to divorce her and say this is a mekach taus. I didn't know that she had, whatever. We're talking about some sort of we'll see what kind of blemishes we're talking about. Um, but he decides that this is not good for him, and he wants to divorce her without the ksuba. And the father, this is talking about a case where we're talking about a girl who's still underage, and her father is receiving her ksuba or get and her get. Um, so the father has to come and bring a proof. שמי שנסער נולדו במומים הללו ונסתח בשדהו. Right? He has to come and prove because it's inside his house that the mum is discovered, and therefore we assume that this mum has always been there.
Right.
Okay. And now he has to come and bring a proof that up until the time that she got married, she was fine, and this thing developed after she was married, and now it's the husband's bad luck. Okay. However, Nichnasa Rishus Abal, she has gone to the chuppah and she's now moved in with the husband, and the husband now suddenly discovers that there's a mum. A Baal tzarich lavi raya she'ad shelo nisarsa hayu ba mumin elu. Now he's got to go and prove that this mum is something that existed before he married her, not before he brought her into his house, because that would be easy. Because then, like first night, he says, "Well, this has been around for a long time," but was it more than a year? So he's got to now come and bring that proof because now that she's in his domain, the chazaka is that it developed in his domain. In other words, since they got married. Okay, but okay, so he has to bring the proof that the very Rabbi Meir. So this is what Rabbi Meir says about this. Chachamim say, "B'mei devarim amurim." But momin shebaseiser. This is talking about only when you've got blemishes that are concealed. Okay. Aval b'momin shebegaloi, when you have an open mum, something that anyone in the street could see. Eno yachol liton. Then he's got no cause for complaint because that's something that's publicly known, and he can't now start coming with a taina that I didn't know that she was that she had this mum, so he can't. So he presumably accepted it. However, im yesh merchatz be'osa ha'ir, if there's a bathhouse where all the women go to in the city, a public bathhouse, then then we must presume Af mumin shebaseiser eno yachol liton. He can't even complain about hidden mumin. Mipnei shehu bodka b'krovasav. He'll send his sister, his wife, his mother, whatever, to go and spy on her while she's in the bathhouse. Okay, and then he hasn't got any tiners whatsoever. Okay. Mishna Tes, Ha-ish shenoldu bo mumin. Now, what happens if a man develops a mum? We've been speaking about the woman's mum now. What about man's mum? Ein kofin oso lohotzi. Now, in general, he does he cannot be coerced to divorce his wife. Amar Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel b'medvar mamurim b'mumin hakatanim. This is talking about when you got minor mumin. Okay, aval the mumin hagedolim kofin also lahotzi. But if it's something significant and we'll see what significant kind of thing is in the next Mishnah. Um, what if it's a significant mum? Then we can coerce him to divorce her. Elush kofin osan lahotzi, and these are the kinds of women that the woman can come with a taina and say, I can't live with this man. Mukeshrin, he has shrin is some kind of a skin disease. Article actually said it could be tsaras, but it's and actually no, Kahati also says tsaras. Ubal polypus, somebody who has a yes,
It says
on his
fentanyl.
nose. It's an extra growth on his nose that makes his breathing difficult and a bad smell comes out of his nose. And a lot of things we'll see are to do with bad smells. Hamakamates is somebody who gathers dog feces. Why would somebody gather dog feces? No, that's one of the ingredients that people use for tanners, for tanning things, and that is probably what gives it its bad smell. Okay, so he's the guy who goes and gathers the dog feces to sell to the tanners, and that leaves, of course, a bad smell on him. Mitzaref Nechoshes, also one who polishes copper, also leaves a bad smell. Habursi, the tanner himself, who's obviously working with the stuff, and he's going to come home with that smell. Bein hayu bam ad shelo nisu, bein mishenisu noldu. This is irrelevant whether it was before or after she got married. Why? Because um, Al Kulan Amar Rabbi Meir says Rabbi Meir on all these things. Even though he was completely open about it and says, "Listen, I'm a tanner. Are you sure you want to marry me?" And she said, "Yeah." יכולה היא שתאמר, סבור האיסי שאני יכולה לקבל. I didn't realize what it meant to be married to a tanner. And like I thought, okay, so there'll be a bit of a smell, whatever. But like this guy's permanently stinking, and I can't breathe when I'm around him. Yeah, I thought I could do it, but I can't. ועכשיו איני יכולה לקבל. וחכמים אומרים, מקבלת היא על כורחה. Um, so the Chachamim disagree with Rabbi Meir and they say, no, she can't recant like that. If she accepted it, she's got to make sure she knows what it's like to live with a tanner, and that's her responsibility. However, a mukesh shchin is the exception here. He cannot carry on living with her mipnei memakatu, um, because even having marital relations is going to be damaging to him because he's got the skin disease.
Right.
Therefore, it's just not possible for them to carry on married life together. Maaser betzidon bebursi echad shemes. There was a maaser of a certain tanner who died without children, and now his wife fell for yibum. V'haya lo ach bursi, and his brother was in the same business. And the brother said, "Okay, well, let's do yibum." אמרו חכמים, יכולה היא שתאמר לאחיך האיסי יכולה לקבל ולך איני יכולה לקבל. So she could rebuff the guy and say, you have to give me chalitza
Right.
because for my husband, I was prepared to accept him being a tanner, but for you, no. So that again qualifies what they said. They just said against Rabbi Meir that if she accepted it explicitly, then she's accepted it. But just because now she's accepted being a tanner doesn't mean she has to accept the brother being a tanner. Okay.
Uh,
Back to Dalad Yud Base.
okay. If he did not, you shall live in my house, and you be supported from my property all the days of the duration of your widowhood in my house. he is nevertheless liable, since it is a condition established by the court. In this manner, the people of Yerushalayim used to write, the people of Galil used to write like the people of Yerushalayim. The people of Judea used to write until the heirs wished to give you your ketubah. Therefore, if the heirs so desired, they may give her ketubah to endemiss her. Although they said a virgin collects 200 zuz and a widow collects 100, if he wishes to add even 10,000 zuz, he may add. If she became widowed or divorced, either after Erison or after Nusuin, she collects all. Reb Eliezer ben Azariah says after Nisuin she collects all. After Erison, a virgin collects 200 and zuz and a widow 100 because he wrote it for her only on the condition of her marrying her. Rabbi Yehuda says if he wishes, he may write for her for a virgin a contract of 200 zuz, and she writes, "I have received from you 100," and for a widow 100, and he writes, "I have received from you 50 zuz." And Rabbi Meir says anyone who undertakes to give a virgin less than 200 or a widow less than 100, their intimacy is an illicit intimacy. A virgin is given 12 months from the time her husband has asked her to provide herself. Just as a woman is given, so is a man given to provide himself. A woman is given 30 days. If the time arrives and they were not married, they eat of his food and they may eat of truma. And Tarfon says she is given all of it from her truma, and Merkiba says half ordinary food and half truma. Okay. Right.
Yeah, vamos.
Okay, just put this in the wrong. Oh, here. Okay, got it. Okay, vamos. Okay, Yud Aleph Beth. No, Yud Aleph Gimel. And if the babies of 5 women became confused with one another, and they grew to adulthood and married and died, 4 performed Kalitza with one widow, and 1 may perform Yibum with her. And he and 3 others perform Kalitza with another widow, and 1 may perform Yibum with her. Thus 4 Kalitzas and 1 Yibum are performed with each widow. If a woman's baby become confused with a daughter-in-law's baby, and they grew to adulthood and married and died, the sons of the daughter-in-law perform Kalitza, but she may not perform Yibum, because it is uncertain which is their brother's wife and which is their father's brother's wife. Sons of the grandmother, however, may perform either Kalitza or Yibum, since there's uncertainty as which is their brother's wife and which is their brother's son's wife. If the certain one dies, the uncertain seem perform Kalitza but not Yibum with the grandmother's sons, widows, because it is uncertain which is their brother's wife and which is their father's brother's wife, and with the daughters-in-law's widows, one of the uncertain ones performs Kalitza and the other may perform Yibum. If the child of a Kohen's wife becomes confused with a slave's child, they both eat truma. They receive one portion of the threshing floor, and they may not contaminate themselves with the dead, and they may not marry either qualified or disqualified women. If they became adults and emancipated with each other, they may marry only women fit to marry. A Kohen may not contaminate himself with the dead, but if they contaminate themselves, they do not incur 40 lashes. They may not eat truma, but if they ate, they are required to pay the principal and in addition fifth. They do not receive a portion of the threshing floor, but they may sell truma and keep the proceeds. They do not receive a portion of the sacred temple objects, and we do not give them sacred objects, but what is theirs is not taken from them. They are exempt from giving the upper foreleg, the jaws, and the stomach. His firstborn animal should be left to pasture until it becomes blemished, and both the stringencies which apply to Kohanim and those which apply to Yisraelim are imposed upon him. And we're now on the Beitzah. Correct?
Yeah, Sukkah first. Let's finish with
Sukkah.
Sukkah and then we'll go into Beitzah.
Okay, Sukkah first. Okay. If one day intervened between them, the watcher whose time is fixed took 10 loaves, and the one who stayed behind took 2. But during the rest of the year, the incoming watch took 6, and the outgoing watch took 6. Yehuda says the incoming watch took 7, and the outgoing watch took 5. The incoming watch divided the bread in the north, and the outgoing watch in the south. The watch of the Bilga always divided the bread in the south. The spring was permanently fixed, and its window was sealed. Okay.
Adon Allah, Maseches Sukkah.
And we have Beitzah. Aleph. An egg that was laid on Yom Tov, Beit Shammai says it may be eaten, but Beit Hillel says it may not be eaten. Beit Shammai says leavening the volume of an olive and comments with the volume of a date, but Beit Hillel says this or that, the volume of an olive. One who slaughters a beast or a fowl on Yom Tov, Beit Shammai says he may dig with a spade and cover the blood, but Beit Hillel says he may not slaughter unless he had the earth prepared from the day before. But they agree that if he already slaughtered, he should dig with a spade and cover the blood with earth, for the ashes of a stove are considered prepared. Okay. Trumos. Okay, we have Yud Yud. All that are pickled together are permitted except with leeks. Leeks of chulin with leeks of truma, vegetables of chulin with leeks of truma are forbidden, but leeks of chulin with vegetables of truma are permitted. Rabbi Yossi says anything that is stewed with beet is forbidden since it imparts a flavor. Rabbi Shimon says cabbage from irrigated soil with cabbage from rainwater soil is forbidden because it absorbs. Rabbi Yehuda says all things cooked together are permitted except with meat. Yochanan ben Nuri says liver renders forbidden, but it is not for renders forbidden because it excludes but not absorb. If an egg cooked with forbidden species, even if its yolk is forbidden, because it dissolves, liquid in which truma has been stewed or pickled is forbidden to non-priests.
Okay.
And others. Okay, Yud Beis Chet. Yud Beis Hey. The joists of the lower and the upper stories of a house have no plaster attached to them and are perfectly aligned one above the other. There is tumah beneath one of the joists. Whatever is beneath it becomes tameh. If there is tumah between the lower and the upper joist, whatever is between them becomes tameh. If there is tumah above the upper joist, whatever is directly above it until the sky becomes tameh. If the upper joists correspond to the space between the lower ones, and there is tumah underneath one of the joists, whatever is beneath any of them becomes tameh. If the tumor is above them, whatever is directly above it until the sky becomes tameh. In the case of a beam that was placed from one wall to another, and there is tumah beneath it, if there is a handbreadth, it spreads tumah beneath its entirety. If not, tumah penetrates upward and downward. How large a perimeter will have a width of a handbreadth? If the beam is round, its perimeter must be 3 handbreadths. If it is square, the perimeter must be 4 handbreadths, because it is a square exceeds a circle by 1/4. In the case of a pillow lying on its side outdoors, if its circumference is 24 handbreadths, tumah spreads under its side. If not, tumah penetrates upward and downward.
Okay.
If,
That's it. We're
okay.
done.
Right.
And
And on to Zora.
Avodah Zarah.
And we
Like
have,
we can't say let's do some Avodah Zarah.
I know, Beis Vav. These items of idolaters are permitted, but the prohibition is not a prohibition against all benefit milk. All benefit milk that a Gentile milk without a Jew watching him, literally, and a Jew does not see him. And they have bread and oil. Rabbi and his court permitted the oil and cooked foods and preserves into which they are accustomed to put wine and vinegar and minced taras, and brine which does not have kilbus fish so floating in it, and the kilak and a grain of kiltis and condis salt. These are permitted, but the prohibition is not a prohibition against all benefit. These are permitted to be eaten milk that an idolater milk while a Jew was watching him, and honey and honeycombs, even though they are dripping, and they do not qualify as a beverage in regard to susceptibility to truma. The storage area is permitted, and the same applies to truma. All images are prohibited, but because they are worshipped once a year, they in other words, are remeah. But as common say, none is permitted except one that has it in his hand, a staff or a bird or a sphere. Reb Gamil says anyone that has anything in his hand.
Okay. All right. Shavua
So,
Tov. Have a lovely
Shavua
week.
Tov. Enjoy. Have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow, Mr. Shem. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.